This is Appalachian Television Omni Media, improving America. It's 3:08, local Wasteland time. You're listening to Midnight in the Wasteland. I'm Night Watch, still on the wire, still sending a voice into places that don't remember what comfort sounds like. Out here, most tales about monsters are all teeth and speed, gunfire, screaming, footprints that end too suddenly. But not every story comes out loud. Some arrive like a cough that you didn't notice until the room's quiet, or like the way the wind changes just before the door swings shut. Someone told me this one. Not a trader, not a raider bragging for a drink. Just someone who sat by the edge of a campfire until the sparks went to ghosts, and they spoke low, like the hills may lean in and correct him if he got any part wrong. He swore there was a Wendigo in the Southern Hills, and he swore it carried a teddy bear. Not chewed, not torn, carried. Said the tag stitched under the paw read, Comrade Chubbs. I don't tell you this because I know what it means. I tell you because out here, the things we carry say more about us than the things that we lose. Let me pass along what I was told. He said the place is east of Sutton proper, past the houses that forgot their names, past the storm-bent fence line where Kutso eats numbers like candy. Take the old service road that climbs into the trees. Watch the ground. The asphalt gives up fast. Turns into a scar of gravel. Then to the kind of dirt road that remembers boots. There's a collapsed shaft up there. It never had a proper sign. Just a timber frame and a mouthful of cold air. If you've ever hunted copper or scrap in these hills, you've cut close without meaning to. Bats in the summer, a breath that tastes like pennies, snow that hangs on longer than it should. He said he wasn't looking for trouble, just caps, razor grain to sell by the jar, a few intact fuses, maybe a box of 38s, if the world felt generous. He cut the road at dusk and heard it first. Not a scream, worse, singing, in the voice you use when you haven't sung in years and you're trying not to wake anybody up. Not words he knew, something familiar, shaved down to a hum. He thought it was a person. He thought he could help. Those are the first two mistakes most folks make. And sometimes I miss the days when we were rich enough to make them. He moved careful, hand to the stock. Breath tucked behind the teeth. The trees were black with evening. The mine mouth let out a thin ribbon of air, as if the mountains were keeping itself alive on rationed breaths. Then the shape came up the ramp. Long where a man's wasn't, bent where a man's doesn't bend. The skin like a bruise trying to remember it had been once warm. The head all wrong, too eager to smell, not eager enough to think. Wendigo. He didn't want to say the word, not even inside his own skull. Some names set a table when you say them. Some names strike a match. He almost ran. Instead, he did what old-timers do. He got smaller. He went still. And he let the trees pretend they didn't mind housing him. The creature held something in both hands. Two hands. The way you carry a bowl when you don't want to spill. It was a teddy bear. Small. Wedged with old stuffing. One button eye replaced by a flat coin of black thread. The fabric was a tired red. At the neck, a little scarf of faded red. Someone's attempt long before the end, to make a toy look like it had belonged somewhere. He thought he had gone mad, not because monsters walk. He'd already made his peace with that. But because the bear was clean. No mud, no soot, no blood. As if somebody had brought it out of a closet, brushed it with a hand that remembered bedtime, and set it into Wendigo's palms with instructions. The thing came up from the shaft and stopped where the gravel met the grass. It angled its head to the left, then to the right, like the world had changed since it last looked, and he couldn't decide whether to forgive it. And then it did something he will never stop seeing. It rocked. Not a threat display, not a balance test. A rock you've seen 1,000 times. The kind a parent does when the weight they're carrying is smaller than their arms. It held the bear under the chin with one long finger and rocked. The hum came again. Not words. A shape of a song. Whatever language lives in the bones when a person forgets everything else. He said the sound made his ribs remember they were a cage. The Wendigo moved to a flat stone and set the bear down very carefully, like a man drawing a circle and trying not to smudge the chalk. It tipped the bear's head so the button and the thread eye both faced the shaft, as if toys see best when they're looking into the dark. Then the creature cupped its hands on either side of the bear's face and waited. The evening grew cold enough to pick a fight with the fingers. The oaks talked in their sleep. Somewhere, a ragstag found a patch of courage and decided to be brave about nothing. He watched until the Wendigo lifted his hands and made that broken harp sound low in its throat and slid back down into the mine. He counted to 200 before he even moved. He's no fool. And he wanted the night to change his mind if it planned to. He went to the stone. Kneeling hurt more than he used to. And he put 2 fingers to the bear's scarf. It was warm. Not the kind of warm that comes from blood. The kind of warmth that comes from being held. He didn't take it. He didn't dare. But he did what a certain kind of person still does, even after the world scolded them for years. He spoke to a thing that couldn't answer. "Hello there," he said to the bear. "Whatever you are, whoever you were, you're seen." Then he left a cap next to the toy, out of some old superstition that says all shrines will accept a coin, if only for the manners of it, and he went home the long way, so the road would have time to forget his shape. The next week, curiosity beat good sense 3 nights in a row. He went back, each time, with the excuse that he needed to check his traps, or that the sky was making promises about rain. But the truth was simple. He wanted to see if the bear was still there. First night, it sat on the stone with a new angle on the scarf, as if a long finger had straightened it. The cap was gone, and in its place, a little pile of pebbles, stacked 3 high, perfectly centered, like a child's attempt at a monument remembered from a dream. Second night, the bear had moved a few feet. Same careful set. Same trail of small stones. He found prints at the tree line. Not human. Not 4-legged. Something that forgot what gait looked like. He was trying to learn again. Third night, he stayed in the bush and watched. The moon had lost interest, and a low cloud had claimed the ridge. The shaft breathed out, and the Wendigo came with it. He swore he heard it say a word, not in a way that a mouse should be able to say a word. Something like hull, or hum, or a name you might have said to a toddler who was trying to be brave. It set the bear in the grass, pressed one long nail to the stitched tag, and drew its hand away as if the cloth had teeth. Then it went still, every tendon a wire, and lifted its head. He'd made a noise. He didn't know what noise. A branch remembering its old life as a sound. A breath forgetting how to be a secret. The creature leaned forward on its arms, like a man in an argument with gravity. He didn't look away. He didn't run. You learn strange courtesies out here. Sometimes the only politeness you can offer a dangerous thing is to let it know you see it, and you're not lying about that. The Wendigo made that violin on rusted wire and sound once, tilted its head, and instead of charging, it took 2 steps backwards, one hand holding the air in front of the bear, like a crossing guard who had remembered this part of the job too late. And he slid down the ramp, back into the dark. He didn't follow. Not everything you're curious about wants to be found by a man with no plan. Word of the bear moved the way words move now, between boiled eggs and bad jokes. Someone said they saw it perched on a stump at the edge of Sutton, like a lookout. Someone else swore they caught sight of it in the burned church at the north end, sat on a pew as if it was waiting for the sermon to find a voice. A raider claimed the Wendigo had placed the bear beside a skeleton just off the main road, spine charred, hands folded, the kind of dignity the Wasteland sometimes gives when it forgets to be cruel. The settler laughed and said toys move when the wind agrees. One settler claimed and said toys move when the wind agrees. Then she changed the subject and wouldn't meet anybody's eye for the rest of the meal. He went back to the shaft at noon in a week of hard blue sky. No shadows to blame. No excuses to make. On the flat stone where the bear had first sat, somebody had arranged Pioneer Scouts badges in a circle, the cheap kind you find near the camp when a banner rots on a line. Each one cleaned of rust, like it had been licked by patience. Inside the ring, a neat square of cloth, creased. Old Vault-Tec blue. He didn't touch it. He didn't need to. Some arrangements refused to be rearranged. He said he stood there for a long time, thinking about hunger, and about memory, and all about the other names we've given to needs that can't be put down without help. He thought about the bear. Maybe Comrade Chubbs had been a vault toy. Maybe some kindly clerk had put it in a giveaway pile, hoping Cotton would make a siren sound like an adventure. Maybe a parent had bought it in Charleston before the fire and wrapped it in paper that smelled like grocery aisles and Friday night. Maybe a child had slept with it on a day when the radios were only music, not a warning. Maybe the Wendigo had been a father once, or a brother, or a babysitter who didn't do the job right, even if no one meant harm. Maybe it didn't mean anything like that at all, and the creature had just learned the shape of holding from the way the mountains cradle the fog. He didn't know. He said it out loud. I don't know. And for once, the woods did not answer with the sound of wings or teeth. They answered with stillness, which is the only honest reply to a man who is finally done pretending. The last time it happened, the bear was gone. In its place, a small hole. Not wide, not deep. Just enough to tell the ground a secret. At the bottom, a single coin eye of black thread, pressed into the dirt, like a pupil trying to see in the dark. No ring of badges, no cloth. The wind had a new smell, like sap waking up. He stood there and said, "Still here," because sometimes it feels right to report in, even when no one asked. Then he told his feet to be wise, and he left. On the walk down, he passed a little tree. Sapling shoulders, serious about the business of becoming. Caught on one of the lower branches was a red strip of fabric. Not a scarf, a memory of one. He didn't take it. Some things need the wind more than they need a pocket. He said he doesn't go back now, not because he's afraid, because the story has decided he wants to rest, and because there are hungers in the world that want to be witnessed, not entertained. He told me he sometimes hears a hum when he's mending his traps. Low, broken, like bedtime trying to find its shape again. When he hears it, he stops what he's doing and keeps his hand still, and he thinks of the way a long finger can tilt a toy's head forward in the dark and make it look like a blessing. That was the tale he left me. No moral, no victory, just a bear, a hole, in the idea that even monsters remember how to hold, if only for a moment, something that doesn't feed them. I've said before that the Wasteland teaches hard lessons, and it tests them even harder. The first lesson is that teeth win. The second is that teeth get tired. The third, if we're unlucky enough to live long enough to learn it, is that sometimes the things that should have forgotten us don't. If what he told me is true, there's a Wendigo in the Sudden Hills who once carried a teddy bear named Comrade Chubbs. Carried it the way you carry quiet, carefully, like noise might break it. Maybe it remembered something it never had. Maybe it held on until the memory had softened, then buried it the way the father buries his face in his hands at the end of a long day. I don't know. Not knowing is part of the job. I pass along the shape, and I let you decide what fits. If you go that way, east of Sutton, where the service road remembers its manners, and the hill exhales through a hole in the mouth in the world, don't take anything that asks to be left. Don't test the doors that are closed from the inside. And if you hear a hum that makes your ribs want to stand up straighter, be very gentle with the silence that follows. You've been listening to Night Watch. This is Midnight in the Wasteland. Same wire, same stubborn signal. Still here. I'll be back tomorrow, if the tower holds, and the dark minds its manners. Until then, carry what you must, set down what you can, and when you find a thing that doesn't belong to hunger, use both hands.